You wake up tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that sits quietly in your mind, already there before the day even begins. Your body feels fine, but your thoughts feel heavy, and you tell yourself it's just life. Too many things to handle, too much to think about. But if you look closely, it's not just what you're dealing with, it's how tightly you're trying to hold everything together. There's a constant pressure running in the background of your mind. A need to stay on top of things, to keep everything in place, to make sure nothing goes wrong. You don't call it control, it just feels like responsibility. So you keep thinking ahead. You rehearse conversations before they happen. You analyze moments after they're over. You try to read between lines that were never even spoken. You tell yourself it's awareness, that you're being careful, that you're protecting yourself from mistakes. But what you don't notice is how much energy this is taking from you. Because you're not just living your life, you're managing it. Every reaction gets filtered. Every decision gets over-processed. Every possibility gets explored just in case something goes wrong. And your mind never gets a break. Even when you're doing nothing, you're still adjusting something internally, still preparing, still correcting, still trying to stay one step ahead of something that hasn't even happened. That's why the exhaustion doesn't go away. Because it's not coming from your actions. It's coming from the constant tension behind them. Control is quiet like that. It doesn't feel like effort at first. It feels like stability, like you're holding things together. But over time, it becomes a weight you carry everywhere. And the hardest part is, you get used to it. You forget what it feels like to not be mentally gripping everything, to not be scanning for what could go wrong, to not be responsible for every outcome. So even when nothing is happening, your mind keeps working as if something is. And that's exhausting. Not in a dramatic way, but in a slow, steady way that builds over time. Until one day, you realize you're always tired, and you don't even know why. Here's what most people miss. This need for control doesn't come from strength. It comes from something much quieter. A fear that's hard to notice because it doesn't shout. It whispers. What if something goes wrong? What if I'm not prepared? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I lose something I care about? So you try to stay ahead of life. You try to shape it before it has a chance to surprise you. But life doesn't follow plans that closely. No matter how much you think ahead, there will always be something unpredictable, something outside your reach. And deep down, you already know that. But letting go feels uncomfortable because control gives you the illusion that you're safe, that if you just think a little more, plan a little better, adjust a little further, you can avoid pain. So you hold on tighter, and slowly, without realizing it, you stop experiencing life directly. You experience your version of it, filtered through expectations, edited through caution, managed through constant awareness. You're there, but not fully, always slightly ahead of the moment or slightly behind it, rarely inside it. And that distance is where your energy is going. Because being present doesn't require effort, but controlling everything does. Think about the moments where you felt light, not distracted, but genuinely at ease. They didn't happen because everything was perfect. They happened because for a moment you stopped trying to manage everything. You laughed without checking yourself. You spoke without rehearsing. You allowed something to unfold without interfering, and it felt different. Not because life changed, but because you did. There was no tension in those moments, no mental grip, just space. And that space is what you've been missing. But it doesn't come from adding more control. It comes from releasing it. Not all at once, not in some dramatic way, just a little. Let one conversation happen without overthinking every word. Let one decision be made without trying to predict every outcome. Let one moment pass without analyzing it afterward. At first, it will feel unfamiliar. Your mind might resist. It might tell you you're being careless, that you're missing something important, but you're not. You're just not controlling it. And that's the difference. Because control has convinced you that everything depends on you, but it doesn't. Some things will work out without your interference. Some people will understand you without perfect wording. Some outcomes will unfold in ways you couldn't have planned, even if you tried. And when you begin to see that, something inside you loosens. You stop carrying what was never yours.
You stop preparing for every possible version of the future. You start responding to life instead of trying to control it before it happens. And your mind begins to quiet down. Not completely, but enough for you to feel the difference. Enough to notice that you're no longer holding your breath mentally. This is where your energy starts to come back. Not because life became easier, but because you stopped making it heavier than it needed to be. You stopped gripping every moment. You stopped forcing everything into place. You allowed some things to be uncertain, incomplete, even imperfect. And instead of chaos, you find relief. Because peace isn't about everything going right. It's about not needing everything too. It's about trusting that you can handle what comes without trying to control it before it arrives. So if you feel constantly drained, look beyond your schedule. Look beyond your responsibilities and ask yourself a quieter question. How much of this weight am I creating by trying to control everything? Because maybe the exhaustion isn't coming from your life. Maybe it's coming from the way you're holding it too tightly, too carefully, too constantly. And maybe the rest you've been searching for isn't in doing less, it's in holding less. Letting some things be uncertain, letting some outcomes be out of your hands, letting life move without needing your constant correction, because you were never meant to manage everything. And the moment you loosen your grip, even slightly, you feel it. A small shift, a little more space, a little more ease, a little more you. And then it becomes clear. You were never exhausted because life was too much. You were exhausted because you were trying to carry it all the time.